Hi, Danu. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you sound good, Jillian.
All right. Awesome.
Yeah. Hey, I see David Crawford. You're here tonight. Can you jump on real quick?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm just
Eh, so I understand that there is a uh plan in place for installing a fire hydrant up on Higginbotham Flats. Do you know anything about that, Dave?
no, but I can probably find out for you.
I'm just curious, just because we've been in the process of doing an RFP, and I know Julian, you were going to look into that as well. But since Dave is on our board, I thought maybe he might have a little inside information on. Uh,
Yeah, I'm just listening now. They're reporting a fire.
okay,
And
so you might have to hop off. Okay.
Yeah, I'll let you know. You'll see me disappear. Yeah, it's got they're talking about smoke in the area up in the Ute Pass.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Up the pass.
Yeah, but that's the thing is the Higginbotham is actually a good idea just because of the fact that it's access to a hydrant if we had to, do
Yep.
pump operations.
Yep. Pump up or pump down. That's for sure.
Danu, I did check in. Essentially, there's a water main up there that is
Yes.
broken, and our
Oh.
our streets and stormwater department is figuring out what to do as far as the repair goes. So once they get it repaired, they want to put a hydrant up there, but there are no immediate plans to do so.
Or of the location, correct?
Correct.
So since there's a water main break,
And,
what does that mean? Does that mean that the facility that the folks who own the storage unit, the gatekeepers, they have no water up there? Do you know?
That's a good question. I don't know, and I might have misspoke. I don't know if it's a water main or just a water line. So I'll need to get clarification on that because I don't want to say the wrong thing.
Sure, yeah, it's probably water line, Julian. Yeah. Um, yeah, I'd be interested to know because I know those folks who, well, back in the day, they were going to be on the site at all times. So I don't know how it is now since they're new owners. So,
I'll find out.
okay, thank you.
Hmm.
All right, I'm going to bank off my camera here. Hi, PARAB. I know that Tim's not gonna be here and probably Anthony Lane is not going to be here. So right now we have Candace, Colin, Chris, Natalie, Melody, Matthew, and Dave Crawford. So 4, 5. Technically, we have a quorum. So if you guys want to get started, we can. What say you? Yep. Colin says, yep, thumbs up. Okay. All right, so let me call this meeting to order for June 3rd, 2024 for PARAB. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
I will motion to approve the agenda.
All right, Colin makes a motion to approve. Do I get a second on that?
Second from Crawford.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dave. Crawford, I like that. Okay, please review the minutes, draft minutes from May 6th. And if somebody would like to make a motion to approve those, I will entertain that motion.
Crawford, motion to approve.
All right, can I get a second on that?
Second.
All right, great. Hey, Anthony, welcome back.
Hey, thanks.
All right. All right, then if anybody all agrees, then we can move on. If anybody has any comments or corrections, we should talk about them now. If not, we'll move on to our public comments not on the agenda. Anybody from the public? All right, if not, let's move on to presentations. We have a pollinator resolution from Melody Doherty. Melody, you want to go ahead and take the screen?
Hello, Parab. Good to see everybody. I'm a little bit confused. I thought Jillian, you and Matthew were going to take the lead on that.
Yeah, we can hop in. So essentially what we wanted to do at PARAB this evening was hopefully all of you have had the chance to review the proposed pollinator resolution that was included in the packet. So we wanted to get PARAB's feedback and assess whether or not PARAB supports this resolution so we can move it forward and, you know, move it along on the next step. So let me pull it up on the screen just to refresh everyone's memory real quick. All right, bear with me for a second. Okay, there we go. Okay, Danu, will you give me a thumbs up if you can see the resolution up on the screen? Okay, perfect. So this resolution, I believe the Manitou pollinators started working on this in 2022, back when Skylar was here as the Parks and Rec director. And we've reviewed it with the pollinators, made a few changes. And from the city side, or from the Parks and Rec side, this looks pretty awesome. We feel that we can abide by the items mentioned in this resolution directly to our existing organic land management policy. So we wanted PARAB to review this since it would pertain to many of our parks and trails, and just get your feedback, answer any questions that you might have. And we invited Melody to attend because she was one of the original authors of this resolution to help answer any questions. So PARAB, now is the time to ask questions or get clarification, and we'll go from there.
Anybody, PARAB, do you have any feedback? Thoughts? Discussion?
And I will differences, or I guess one of the adjustments that's in this resolution that isn't currently in our organic land management policy is the prohibition or the banning of neonicotinoids, or neonics, as our hip pollinator community calls them. So basically, these are chemicals that are found in some seeds or seedlings that we might get from local vendors. So we're going to, whenever possible, purchase seeds that do not contain neonicotinoids, which is kind of like a chemical that some places use to prevent pests from growing on or around the seeds.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Julian. This wasn't included in our packet. I
Oh,
don't think. I can't find it. I don't know if you can.
I think you're correct on that, Colin.
I sent it over in time for the agenda, so I
It just
apologize
says,
if it.
yeah, it says something like no file attached, or I don't know if you can
Okay.
pop it in the chat or something so we could just scroll through it quickly ourselves.
Yeah, let me email this over to PARAB. Okay, so I'm gonna stop sharing my screen and I'm gonna send this via email.
You know, I think as a whole, I think PARAB supports the concept of the pollinator resolution, of its intent and its purpose. My thoughts is that it's way too long, and a resolution, I believe, I had I had to look up the meaning of a resolution, and I don't have that in front of me right now, but I think that if we could streamline it a lot more to hit on the more important points of what you want the city to adopt as a resolution, that would be more beneficial to what you are trying to achieve. I kind of feel like a lot that's in the resolution is a lot of stuff that could be part of the standard operation of procedure for parks to fulfill and to follow. And that shouldn't be part of the resolution. Basically, I think your title theme of your resolution kind of sums it all up. And I think you should stick with just that whole premise of what you are trying to achieve, which is to protect our butterflies, our pollinators, etc., and let the city parks and your pollinator group work out an SOP on how to carry that out. That would be my feedback, because as it is now, I think it's way too long.
Thanks for that feedback, Danu.
Anybody else? I know it's kind of a lot to digest.
Well, so because this wasn't included in the packet, and it very much was meant to be included in the packet, what if we give PARAB a few days to review this? And I'll send out an email asking for feedback, and maybe you guys can respond to me via email. That way we have the group's feedback. I know Danu has gone through this, but I don't think we have time tonight for everyone to read it and think about it and offer feedback this evening.
Yeah,
So would that be acceptable if I reach out and ask for feedback in a few days from the group, now that once you've had time to review it?
yes, I think that would be acceptable, Jillian.
Can you tell us just a bit about, so I see here, so you and your colleagues prepare a report. Says within 90 days of the, when this resolution is passed, and just kind of talk a little bit about what it actually means in terms of, and then it says there's a quarterly report. Can you just talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Anthony. So within the 90 days after this resolution would be passed, essentially the city would be giving an update on what we might have changed per the resolution and what we're doing to honor the resolution. So that's all that is. And also including any applications of any, oh, sorry, I'm reading this right now. It's just sharing the best practices that we use currently when it comes to our organic land management policy. Matthew, do you want to speak to this briefly? Because it would be Matthew and Brad, our parks manager, compiling the report.
Yeah. So the 90 days would just be a descriptor for whoever needed to look at it as to what products were applied and where. And the short answer is we don't usually use pesticides, herbicides. The only major applications I'm aware of are done by our contractor in the parks, Clean Air Steve. But I would double check that. You have to keep records for any sort of pesticide, herbicide application. Everything we applies within OLM. And then the quarterly report would just be detailing what applications we did at what rates for what insect or disease issue. And again, it'd be pretty minor. We really don't do much in the way of treatment. Most of our weed control is mechanical. We just dig them out. So hopefully that makes sense.
Thanks, Matthew. Anthony, did that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. And I like the language in here about, native species and encouraging the use of those. What is the process? So in a few days, you will ask us for any comments, and then where does it go from here? This is city council approves this, or what's the?
Yes, so this would go to city council next, and what we're looking for is support from PARAB. So we certainly want PARAB to support any resolutions we put forward that will impact our parks. So that's what we're looking for with this. And then if you have any feedback or suggestions for adjustments or questions, that's what I'll be asking for in a few days. And because Melody is on the call tonight and was the original author of the resolution, Melody, do you want to share anything about the resolution? Just anything any parts you want to highlight, or just anything about it since you're on the call?
Sure, thank you so much. To Danu's point, this was originally written to be an ordinance, not a resolution. And so a lot of the languaging involved, the Manitou pollinators worked with an attorney to create this as an all-encompassing ordinance. So I'm really curious about what that would mean under SOP with Park and Rec. I'm not quite sure I understand that process, but that's something to learn. So that was the origins of this. I was actually asked to start working on this in 2019, and then COVID hit and things happened. So it's just taken a while to get to this point. And really its intention is is really centered on Manitou Springs becoming the first municipal certified pollinator district, right? It's really important for our community. This goes a little bit more into depth where we're looking at not only native bees, native species, we're looking at native plants, and we also included our waters and our riparian habitat. That gets not discussed, or it kind of isn't a part of the whole ecosystem services, especially during these times of climate crisis when pollinators are just, taking a slam and their extinction rates continue to grow and the forecast doesn't look good for them. That's what a pollinator district is that we're all coming in, working together to just create this habitat where they can kind of, just continue to thrive. And from that focus and that perspective, we also were paying attention to what the criteria is needed by the Butterfly Pavilion to maintain our certification, when they focus heavily a lot on the pesticides. So we really came with a holistic ecosystem approach. Threw in the neonics because that was something that had been asked of me directly back in 2019. It's like there's no mention of neonics in our organic land management policy. They tend to, that brand or classification is just really, it's very lethal. So there was feedback from the community asking me to create this, to do this, and we focused on our pollinator district. It has been reviewed by Amy Arg in the Butterfly Pavilion. They gave it a passing vote on that for all of us too. So we're landing really strong and really well from that perspective. So it is what it is. And when you begin working with attorneys, things get long. So in my original presentation with Jillian and Matthew, the conversation was, do we go with an ordinance or do we go with a resolution? And we know everybody's really busy. We know that there's some steep processes involved. I think really what the community is looking for, and the organic land management policy as explained to me by Roy Cheney and Jillian and Matthew, is that it's all encompassing. So to make sure that we have that protection in place for me as an Indigenous woman for the next 7 generations, for our kids, for wildlife, is really important, that can be achieved through a resolution, through the organic land management policy. So I was like, okay, if that's what we can get to have in place, but it's there now, it's there, and it will be there for the next 7 generations is my hope. If that's not, and I guess the question I have for all of you, because I don't understand I'll reach out to you, Jillian, about standard operating procedures and being within Park and Rec. Then does that mean we flip back to an ordinance versus a resolution? So it's like, I'm not sure about that, but it's really about that protection for our pollinators and for our food security and for the environment. And I think that's about all I have to say. Thank you.
I have a definition here. I just Googled a resolution. A resolution typically is less solemn and formal than an ordinance, and generally speaking, is simply an expression of the opinion or mind of the official body concerning some particular item of business or matter of administrative coming within its official cognizance. An expression of the opinion or mind of the official body concerning some particular item of business or matter of administration coming within its official cognizance. Okay, now, anybody understand that? Anyway, that's kind of what it, shows me, that it's so resolution is less solemn and formal than an ordinance. And simply it's an expression of an opinion, of the opinion or mind of the official body concerning some particular item of business or matter which would be the pollinators, and following the organic land management policies, and then maybe inserting some of your other, concerns, maybe that the organic land management policy does not cover.
Well, thanks for the definition, Danu. Always helpful. So I think the reason we were leaning for a pollinator resolution as opposed to an ordinance for this particular document is because when this goes to council and gets approved, we're also planning on updating our organic land management policy, which is part of city code, to include the neonics. So instead of having to update one ordinance and add an ordinance, it would be updating one ordinance and adding a resolution. So I hope that makes sense. That's what we thought would make a lot of sense from the city side. And an SOP is a standard operating procedure. Those aren't laws or ordinances. Those are policies that we follow within city staff. So
That's correct. Yes.
in Manitou, we have an SOP for almost everything. I'll tell you, I wrote one for the length of shorts I'm allowed to, or the like uniform shorts I'm allowed to let my staff wear. There's an SOP for that. So within Manitou, we almost have an SOP for everything that goes on, including our landscaping and gardening and tree planting practices. So we could create an SOP with this resolution, but we do plan on updating the organic land management policy to include neonics.
So, but basically for this purpose of our presentation, you're just looking for PARAB support of the pollinator project and its intent?
Yes, we're looking for support of the proposed resolution from PARAB. We'd like to have PARAB support before we bring this to council.
Well, I think it would be safe to say that, I'm in support of the intent of what the resolution has to offer, but I don't think that the resolution as it's written right now, I mean, I support its intent, but I feel like it's not, I feel like, and please anybody jump in, I feel like it's way more than what a resolution is intended to be. That's all. And perhaps that's up to city council to make that call, not necessarily our call to make that. But I think we're all in support of the pollinator project. Am I right about that, PARAB?
Yeah, I'm definitely in support. I mean, the only other thing I see in here in terms of is the formation of this pollinator committee. And do you want to say just a few words about what you see think that would involve, and like who will form that committee and that kind of?
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. We were hoping to look for some guidance from PARAB or just comments on. So one of the recommendations from the Butterfly Pavilion was to have more of a connection and collaboration between the city and the community when it comes to sustaining our pollinator district status. And one of the suggestions they had was the formation of a pollinator committee, which could be something similar to the tree committee that we currently have. And you see this section here is in italics because there is some additional work that would need to be done, listing exactly what the committee would be taking on and having that spelled out within the resolution. So that's an area we're also looking for feedback on.
So Jillian, I'm assuming that if the file didn't go through with this resolution, then the Ohio Whetstone example for PARAB was one of the guiding documents that it was given to me to suggest to offer to PARAB about that development and what that would look like. Is there a way to send that to PARAB that they could read that to have a different idea from a different state and a different community that has a successful pollinator committee that actually bridges, Park and Rec with the community?
Definitely, I can include that.
Yeah, I think we would have to. That was a document that was sent to me several Park and Rec directors ago. City Administrator Denise Howell had sent it our way. She really liked it. She thought that it was just a nice example of what can be created. We have the pollinator district actually kind of surpasses a lot of what Ohio Whetstone has, but there was a lot of similarities enough that it would be, I think it's doable, but again, that's for you to review and decide. It really is something with the committee that you get to decide who you want to be a part of that committee. When I formally met with Jillian and Amy about it, originally with Matthew, there was conversation about including our pollinator district partnerships. And then there'd be stakeholders. So that was a request put out, and there was a lot of support of the community to come in, and whatever branch that would look under, that would be created within PARAB. That was a big part of the conversation. It certainly isn't something for the Manitou pollinators to develop, to own, to run. It really is, it isn't anything like that. It's just having more people on board to have a stronger voice, a stronger community involvement and engagement. And kind of going forward from there would be really wonderful.
So Jillian, I would say why don't you go ahead and send it out, and then go ahead, as you suggested, for our feedback via email, blind copy, etc., for comments and stuff. And I think we need to probably discuss this a little bit more to figure out I guess, I think I can safely say that I think we have PARAB support for the whole concept of the pollinator project. It's just the resolution. I'm not sure that that's should be up to PARAB to make or create that resolution, I guess.
Okay, sounds good. I will send the document Melody was referring to with the Ohio Whetstone project, and I'll reach out to PARAB for feedback by the end of the week.
Okay.
Sound
That sounds
good?
good. Yep, sounds good.
All right.
Jillian, would you also, I guess I have one more request about that. You know, I had done a formal breakdown and comparison between the pollinator district of Manitou and the Ohio Whetstone project that they had created. Could you also please send that to them so that they can see the comparison and where we're landing, which is much stronger, but that it's a combined vision. Would you be willing to do that?
I would. And Melody, in case I can't find that document to me, so I know that I have the most current and recent document.
Of the resolution or the Whetstone, Ohio Whetstone?
No, I have both of those. I don't know if I have the comparison you're talking about that you created.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, I'll send that to you. That was a document that was submitted to Denise Hall and Roy Cheney. That had been submitted to Skylar back when he was still here. So I will do that. And it just helps to have all of that in place to have a deeper conversation about it and how to develop it and how to move forward.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions, or can we move on to our reports then? Thank you, Melody.
Thank you
Matthew?
so much. Bye.
Thanks, Melody.
Am I up?
Yes, sir.
Excellent. So I'll be brief. We planted a lot of trees the last 2 months. Somewhere between 85 and 90, I believe. Maybe a couple of more. I'm still getting the count for last month. So we planted a lot of trees. That's very exciting. And now we just have to keep them alive through the heat of the summer. Next mission is going to be the pollinator gardens, putting in a couple of those this spring. That'll be nice as well. And for our next meeting, I will have some trees for you all to consider. Some trees that need the tree committee's input. So I will actually have slides and all that make ready for y'all next time.
Okay. Any questions for Matthew? Okay, if not, Parks and Rec Advisory Board, I don't really have anything to report. Although I do have the Manitou Overlook Park RFP for the master plan design. Jillian, do you want to talk about that?
Sure. And what I think could be helpful is going through the timeline that we have for the Higginbotham Flats. We're also calling it the Manitou Overlook Park. That's the working title for this. So we submitted a request for proposals back on May 15th for different firms to come and figure out if they want to design a master plan for us. So the RFP was published mid-May. We had our pre-proposal site visit on May 21st. And we had several contractors show up, which I thought was awesome. What was even more awesome is they were all women. So that was great. A lot of girl power that morning. We had our deadline for questions last Tuesday, and I'll be submitting the final addendum this coming Friday to answer all the questions from our contractors. And then contractors have until June 26th to submit their bids. So once we receive those bids, we'll be going through an evaluation process and we'll be issuing the notice of selection by July 12th. So that's the timeline for the master plan selection process for Higginbotham Flats, aka Manitou Overlook Park.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Jillian? No, if not, I'd like to move on to our council liaison, Natalie. Hi, Natalie.
Let's see, I also don't have a ton of updates. We had the Community Creek Walk meeting. I wasn't able to attend that, but I will be doing a walkabout with the consultants soon. I don't know if any of you were able to participate, but it's exciting that those projects are moving forward. I guess you all probably noticed that Cheyenne Village is on the market for sale.
Really?
That.
I
So
didn't know that.
yeah, and so I mean, I know just in terms of PARAB's connection to that, right, is that you do have a dedicated park piece
Yes,
on that.
yes.
And obviously I think that's connected to all the paperwork, but just so that you're aware. And then I didn't mention this during Jillian's update about the Higginbotham Flats or the Overlook, but the MAPS board, I'm also liaison to the MAPS board, and they are just really interested in, again, being a part of that community process. They're really interested in how people are going to get up to that property and in a variety of ways, right? Which makes sense. So they're aware that you're obviously the lead, but they're really excited about what can happen up there. And then the only other thing I have, which has nothing to do with council, is that the tennis court fabric that we put up, I've had a couple of people just give feedback that they feel like it's in the wrong spot and they just assume it be taken down so that they can see the trees behind the courts. But anyway, but that's all I've got. So I don't know if you all have any questions for me, but.
Well, I do have a comment on the windscreen. So we had a professional come out and do an assessment because the current windscreens, that was just our team
right.
ordering some samples and putting them up. They're not the best quality, and they're probably, Natalie, you're right, the feedback you received, they're not in the best locations to actually block that wind. So the company that came out, Colorado Home Interiors, they do all the windscreens for the courts in Colorado Springs, so that we reached out to the same company. So they're going to send back an assessment of where they think windscreens would best serve that court. And then I'll bring their feedback to PARAB, because it's most likely going to be on the El Paso side of the court and probably the restroom side. That's where we're getting most of the wind coming in. But I'll bring that report once I have it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So Natalie, basically the feedback was they didn't like it blocking the view of the trees.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't
be the creek side, right?
Right. It wasn't a scientific.
No, it was just the
opinion.
gut, one of those gut feelings. I get it.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, Natalie, does that does that mean that the developers who bought Cheyenne Place are now selling it? So they're not going to develop it. So they're all, after all of those meetings and plans, they've decided to let go.
Mhm.
But here's my question though, Natalie. Is our land dedication for Pocket Park still standing?
It is at this time, right? And so I think if there were new buyers, they could say they wanted it in a different place and you guys could start that conversation again.
Oh boy, howdy.
Do you know what I mean? I mean, I could be wrong. I'm just
Hmm.
guessing, right? But I think that what they're selling is a package where they can move faster than the current owners, right? So that I can't imagine they would want to go back to you all and start over.
To square one, right? Yeah.
Right. But but in theory, they could say, let's have a new conversation about it, right? But they're selling it with that dedication in place.
Okay, okay.
Right, thank you.
And also the easement access to the creek as well, right?
Right. Mhm.
Everything that was established prior to this.
And they're selling that as a positive, that all that work has been done.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's helpful. Thank you.
Natalie,
Yep.
who did you say was concerned about getting up to Manitou Overlook?
Oh, sure. The Manitou, what is it? Maps. So, mobility and parking
Yes.
board. And so they're just,
Okay.
so they're looking at the creek walk, right? The Serpentine, and they tend to be pretty bike friendly. So maybe there's a bike conversation happening there. But just in general, right? We're creating a park up in an area that is potentially difficult to access. So just again, if they can help with that part of the conversation, I think they're interested.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
And
I
Chris,
mean-
you had your hand up.
Yeah. Go ahead, Chris.
Okay, a couple of things. So about the Cheyenne Village property, it sounds like it's not really possible. Like, I guess I'm wondering about the possibility of maximizing our footprint as park dedication, because this could be our chance to have a larger park. So I guess I would be interested if I'm interested in that possibility. Do you think that that would be possible, or do you think it would just sort of be static, like what we were already offered or what we already was decided upon is gonna carry to the new owners?
I mean, I can't really answer that question, but I mean, you could certainly, I mean, it's for sale, right? So that you can reach out to the real estate company and go on a walkabout with them and leave PARAB contact information and say, hey, we'd love to work with the new owners on something and potentially posit that as a positive. I don't know. I think that there was a monetary contribution too that was made.
Well, we were supposed to receive fees in lieu of land because they did not fulfill their total amount of land dedication based on the ordinance of that's written in the planning.
So if those
Planning,
haven't been paid, they could
Right.
remedy that.
They could by giving us more land for parks.
Yeah.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Right, or the new owners, or somehow that would have to be bundled into the sale. Is that a, or, yeah, I
mean,
don't know.
all they can do is suggest things, I think, because if they wanted, right, they could go to regional all over again. They could go to HPC over again. I mean, I don't know who would do that, but they
Right,
could start over if they wanted, I mean, I was just paying attention. So I think they're selling it for like $4 million. So,
wow.
no.
Okay, so that's just a thought. Way outside of my real estate and all the legal whatever is not my forte for sure. Okay, my other idea is maps. I guess, do you have any suggestions on like the best way to work with them, or like could they attend a meeting and could we connect? I mean, I think that it's important for maps to understand that the RFP was really related to strictly the park, and has very little, if nothing, to do with how people are getting to the park, or not that that is not important, because it is, but that's not what the RFP was about, or so I think that's maybe a separate issue moving forward of how to work together. I mean, we've been talking about this for years, I feel like. And like Tim once said, you know, if you build it, they will come. You know, we have to build the park first and then kind of figure out all the rest. Although, you know, we do, thinking about bikes, you know, we may want to include some bike parking and things that we didn't include in the RFP. But that seems easy enough that hopefully we could add that later.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, because there will be a public process.
Exactly. That's what I was
Once-
gonna say.
Yes, once the RFP and the master design plan is in place, then it will be going to the public for comments and for additions, and that would be the time for maps to be able to weigh in and to add or whatever. But what I had encouraged maps was everyone who's on that board needs to be on the same page with an idea, a concept, a plan to be able to present when it's time as how it can be incorporated.
Okay. Is that okay if I share that?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, 'cause that makes sense to have
Does
it.
that sound, yeah, does that sound reasonable, Chris?
Yeah, I haven't really heard any ideas specifically. I've just heard some kind of, you know, that people have ideas and they want to share them, and I think that that's great. I do think though that maps isn't the public. They are a board, you know, and I think that boards should be able to collaborate and work together on a, you know, common vision. So I don't think that they should be relegated to like the public process necessarily. I think that we should include them if they, especially if they're wanting to be included and they have ideas. I think we should work with them.
And this is just the beginning, right? So I think I
Yeah.
just wanted to get it on your radar that they're interested.
Yeah.
So in a month, right? Or in 2 months, it may make sense. And just to say, for me to say, like, you're tracking their interest and you're willing to reach out when it's appropriate, I think is fine, you know? I just think that they, you know, they just, again, put that out there.
Yeah. Okay, any other follow-up, Chris? Are you good with that?
Yeah, I think we should invite them to a meeting. I mean, maybe, I don't know when that's appropriate.
Well, yeah, see, and that's why I'm saying that it would be more appropriate for them to be at the public process and to represent, they are the representatives of the mobility and the parking people. You know, I don't think they're an entity unto themselves. I mean, we represent the people who are interested in the parks and open space, etc. So I don't see maps as being any different than that. So I think that everyone can have their opinion and their input at these public meetings, and then they can put in their input then. And if they feel like they want to come to one of our meetings, you know, that would be okay too. But I want them to come with a concept, an idea, a proposal to present. Otherwise, it'll go off the rails and go off into. Do you know what I mean?
So if y'all are comfortable, I can go to them and say, you know, individually participate in the community piece. If you want to come together with a unified maps board concept or idea or whatever, then potentially reach out to you all and see if that's possible. But having individual board members doesn't equal a board representing mobility for that. I got it. Does that, okay.
Yes,
Cool.
thank you. Is everybody okay with that?
I am. I think that it's hard for them to, without knowing what we included in the RFP or what the, you know, without having a design plan yet, I
Mhm.
think it's hard for them to sort of come with specific ideas. And so,
Well, that's why we gotta have the public process so that they can see that. And then that's when they can like look at it.
okay, yeah. So
Mhm.
maybe after that happens,
So it might
then
just be a
Yes,
can
6 months or
collaborate
whatever.
after that. Okay, cool.
yes, yes. Colin, did you want something to say? Did you have something?
No, I was just agreeing with you. I'm fine with it.
All right. Well,
Okay.
thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, great. Thanks, Natalie. Okay, anything else for Natalie?
Yeah.
Okay, then I'm gonna skip ahead to the director's report to the Park and Rec department, and that would be you, Jillian.
All right, let me share my screen. Oop. Okay. Everyone should be able to see it now. So just a few updates from Parks and Rec. We are struggling with the weeds in Wheeler Park. So what our parks maintenance crew has proposed is solarizing the park for the month of June. And essentially what that entails is tarps placed over the weedy areas in the park to stifle the weeds. After June is over, or about a month, the tarps will be taken off. The dead weeds will be removed. We'll do some mulching, refreshing of the soil, and replanting in those areas. And hopefully it will help with weeding that park going forward. So I wanted to share this with PARAB because Wheeler Park will have limited access during the solarization. We'll have tarps over the ground, so it won't necessarily be the most aesthetic park during that time, but it is just for 1 month, and then it will be open the remainder of the summer. Our kiddie pool is delayed, the opening due to a leak, and I am happy to announce that leak detectors, they came out last Friday and they found the leak. So now all we have to do is cut through the concrete, repair the leaky pipe, patch it up, and then the kiddie pool will be back open. And we're hoping we can do that within 2 weeks at the very longest. I was
Kiddie-
told the kiddie, yeah?
Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead. I just wanted to interject something about Wheeler Park, but go ahead and finish your piece on the kiddie pool.
Okay. I was just going to say, I believe the kiddie pool traditionally has opened during Memorial Day weekend. So that weekend has come and went. So it will be opening just a little bit later this season. And Danu, what is your question with Wheeler?
Well, there's a lot of people that live in the Wheeler Apartments building above that use that park quite frequently for their dogs. And I don't know to what extent the TARP process is going to entail.
They do use it for their dogs, and ideally they're picking up after their dogs, but it is
Yes.
sometimes used as a dog park. So what we're going to do is before we place the tarps, we're going to let the neighborhood know. We're figuring out if we should do like door hangers or just send some sort of an email to the residents in that area, just letting them know it won't really have dog access. And if their dogs are running around there, they'll be running on top of the tarps, which is fine. But we'll remind folks to clean up after their pets if they're going to have their dogs in the park still with the tarps down.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a very popular area for pets. That is
Yes.
true.
Yes.
We
Okay.
have registration open for fall soccer, pre-K through 4th grade. It closes on July 5th. Soda Springs, so we do have Horde, Copeland, and Mott. They incorporated the 2 metal slides into the design plan. Both slides will face southeast. That will offer the most shade. We're also going to add an additional shade tree to the, the south corner of the playground to offer more shade over that second metal slide that we're swapping in for the plastic slide. And I included the plans in this packet. So if you're interested, you can take a peek at those. The newly installed memorial bench in 7 Minute Spring Park. So thank you, PARAB, for approving that and supporting that. Hopefully you've got a chance to see it in person, but here are just a couple of pictures of it.
A lot of people were using it this weekend at the Wine Fest.
Great. Yeah, it's a great spot. Thanks, Danu, for helping solidify that location. And then everything else in here, these are just items I pulled from the City of Manitou Springs weekly report. So just to reiterate what's going on within parks, maintenance, and forestry, our pool and fitness center, and our community events. That's the flyer, and I just want to confirm. Yeah, the design, this is a huge PDF, but you can shrink it down if you want to take a peek at where the slides are going to be facing. Let me see if I can, sorry. There we go. So
Oh,
this is the new metal slide that we're replacing for the plastic. And so both slide exits are going to be facing southeast. So ideally this will offer the most shade. So this corner of the slide will have shade over. And then this tree, this will be a tree that Matthew's going to put in. This will offer more shade too as it grows.
Okay, great.
All right, any questions?
I'm worried about our turf and the irrigation system for watering the turf in our parks. Do you have any updates on Memorial especially? That one is beat. I don't know if that one will come back.
So
Go
yes.
ahead.
So we found the issue in Memorial Park, and Brad and our water division actually issued a temporary fix today. So irrigation will be turned on for the park as of this afternoon, and we'll be starting, watering the park. The grass will come back. It's going to take some time. It won't be overnight, but we found the problem. So we're fixing that. And that's why the grass is looking a little bit ragged in Memorial Park, especially after the wine festival. It
Well,
will
even
bounce.
well, even before the wine festival, it was beat. Yeah. So I'm just concerned because we've been, dumping money into trying to, maintain that, and it's hard because I know it needs the water, and I know that the issues with irrigation. The other thing is Soda Springs Park, that turf is looking pretty weak too. So I don't know if they can get the irrigation going on Soda Springs Park turf too.
Okay, that should be on. I'll double check with our parks maintenance crew and see what we can do
Okay.
to make it more effective, maybe.
Yeah, that would be great because I don't want to lose that one.
All right, anything else?
I don't know. Anybody else have anything else for Jillian? Okay, if
Chris.
not, oh yeah, go ahead.
Oh,
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Chris.
Jillian, are you aware of the bathroom door at Fields
Oh.
Park being broken?
No, what happened to it? How is it broken?
Well, how do I say this? So I was at the park the other day and I used the restroom, which it has been remodeled. It was great. It looks nice. And then I tried to go back about a while later and the door would not close. And the hinges or something was bent, and so you couldn't close the door.
Okay.
So a report was made to the police, and I'm not sure what the status is now. It's probably still broken.
I don't know. What day was that, Chris?
That was on Friday or Friday.
Okay. I'll double check, but if it was still broken, our facilities maintenance team, they clean that restroom every day. They would have said something. But I'll check in with Kevin tomorrow and see like if that was reported to him and if they were able to fix it relative, if it was just the hinges. But I will look into that. Thanks for mentioning that.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, and the bench, the infields where it faces the pickleball courts.
Yes.
We were like, oh, let's see how it goes. I think it's great, actually. I think it's in a good location. And I almost think you could add another bench just south of there, like, you know, kind of in the same position on the sidewalk. Anyway, I think it's great.
Okay, thank you. Like another bench, so their benches are sandwiching the walkway kind of?
Yeah. And
Okay.
then you kind of have one bench sort of facing each pickleball court. And like it was late afternoon, you know, when the sun can be kind of intense, but anyway, both benches, both that area where the bench is, it's totally shaded and it's really nice.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Speaking of that area, Jillian, what about the bike ride? What's happening with that?
So Pike Ride, I don't have any updates. I did share all of the recommendations and feedback from PARAB. So thank you to those who responded to my email a few weeks ago now, I suppose. But that was really helpful. So I haven't heard anything from Juan. I don't believe it's gone back to City Council yet, but I will give an update as soon as I have one.
Okay, great. All right, anything else for Jillian?
I didn't provide feedback on the email. If I could do that real fast right now, I would say my opinion still holds that I would just put it on the concrete, the existing concrete underneath the, you know, by the bathrooms there. In that general area, and not add new concrete to Becker's Lane because there's trees right there that could be damaged potentially.
Yeah, I will say that was PARAB's #1 option, was the existing concrete. And Pike Ride likes that location. The only downside is you can't see it from the street. And as a nonprofit, not having that automatic advertising is tough, but it's existing concrete and they could fit the bikes there. So yeah, I shared the support of option, I think that was option A or whatever, however I listed it. I shared that with Juan, our parking director, and with Pike Ride.
Awesome, thank you.
Thanks, Jillian.
Yep.
Yep. Okay, if there isn't anything else, I'm gonna move on to a mini grant that was submitted to PARAB for the Manitou 5K run. The mini grant is in the packet. Did you guys get a chance to look at it?
Yeah, I did.
What do you think, Colin?
I think it's great to support these races. I remember I was part of this team that tried to revitalize the Mayor's Cup a few years ago, and we just did it for 1 year, and it was so much work, but it was a lot of fun, and I think it's a great thing for the town. So I'm happy to see that the school district is eager to get something going.
Yep, it's gonna be, I think it's the first collaboration actually between the school district and the city. Yeah,
Yeah, I support it as well. Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
okay, great. Candace, do you have any thoughts? Or are you too busy taking notes?
I'm very busy taking notes, but I support it.
Okay. Crawford, I like that, Crawford. Sir,
Crawford supports.
all right, well, great. Well then, does anyone want to make a motion then?
Sure. I make a motion that we approve the mini grant for the Manitou Mustang 5K run.
I
Okay,
shall second the motion
for $1,000.
for $1,000. Yes.
Yes, all right. All right. Is everybody all in favor of the motion as amended? Aye. All right, great. And I know you are too, Mr. Crawford. And Candace, yep. Candace, you too? I think she is. She's writing the motion. Okay, then the motion, is anybody opposed to it? Okay, then the motion passes. And we will support the mini grant for $1,000 to the Manitou 5K run. Okay, Jillian, you want to talk about the Peachtree Memorial Rock?
Yeah, so about a week and a half ago, Michael Howell and John Graham reached out. They'd like to put a rock at the base of the peace tree that was planted in Mansions Park on Indigenous Peoples Day last year. And I'm going to show a quick picture of what they'd like the rock to say. They want to have the rock engraved. So hopefully everyone can see my screen here. But basically they want to put this text on the rock and set it at the base of the tree. They are completing an application, just like people complete an application for a memorial bench or a memorial tree. This is a memorial rock. It would be inscribed with this, and they would work with the Parks Department to make sure the rock is anchored in place. We found that rocks that are just placed tend to grow legs and maybe disappear after a few weeks, months, or years, but we would make the rock is anchored and in a spot where it wouldn't interfere with park maintenance. And once I think Danu, their application, it's going to go through the city's clerk's office to you.
Right.
I'm trying to remember the process we went through for the memorial bench. But this is pretty simple. We already have a rock that is available for use, and Michael and John would get it engraved, and that would be it. So I guess any hesitations from PARAB at this point?
Well, our memorial policy only applies to trees and benches, so we don't have rocks. My only feedback would be I would run this, what they want to inscribe onto the rock. I would run it by Jeff Parker to make sure that it's acceptable. And Jeff Parker's our city attorney.
Right.
And you know what, Jillian, I would be happy to do that if you would like, if you want to just,
Well, I mean, we could. I know we also, what do you think might not, what are you worried about, Danu, with this?
Well, when we went through the whole memorial process, there was a huge thing about the inscriptions that were written on the plaques. And he was like, saying we can't have it be like a cemetery. We can't be reflecting political ideas. We can't have, birth and death dates, things of that nature. So I ran the inscription past him for the memorial bench that we put in for Roberta Graham at the 7 Minute Spring, and he approved it. So that's just me just kind of covering our bases, just to make sure it's not going to be, it's been so long now, I can't even remember what it was, but I just, to be on the safe side, that's why I just run it by him. And he responded and said, yeah, that's fine. And it was done.
Okay. Yeah. If that's the protocol you use, definitely we'll run it by Jeff and get his thoughts on it.
Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. Just, I don't want to be, stepping over any lines or whatever.
Danu, will you take that on if I send you this
yes,
text?
Absolutely. I would be happy to, Jillian.
Okay.
This is Chris. I have issue with the punctuation. And also what happens when the tree grows? Will the rock be in the way?
That's a great question. Yes, I mean, it would be in the way eventually.
That's a good question.
I'll need to check with Matthew and Brad. They're figuring out how we're going to get it anchored. And mainly we just want to make it theft proof. We're not necessarily going to drill into the ground and anchor it, 4 feet down with concrete. But I will ask them.
Yeah. because cottonwoods will get really big.
Yeah, just I would want like somebody, an editor, somebody to kind of look a little bit more carefully at the punctuation and like just the phrasing.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think people's needs an apostrophe after it.
And I think the middle part doesn't need a comma or a period. Perhaps. I don't know. I think it needs a little editing.
Yeah, if you engrave something on a rock, it's got to be correct.
I agree.
And maybe shorter. I mean, that's a lot of engraving into a rock. It's a lot to say there. So I don't know. That's our feedback for that, and then I can
Okay,
run it
I'll
by Jeff Parker too and see what he thinks.
yeah, that'd be great. And I'll offer this feedback to Michael and John.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Old business. The Creek Walk Art Walk updates. Tim and I met with Crane back in May, and I believe Tim got a quote from the guy who built his handrails, his metal handrails, and he thought that he could do a frame for like $750. And then I guess Jillian, you had asked Juan about getting a price from whomever they got the signs on the Manitou Avenue, those metal signs, but he never got back to you, right? So I should probably still pursue, finding, some more quotes for that.
Actually, he did email me back. And Danu,
Yes.
while you're on this topic, I'm gonna look for that email, okay? So I'll be
Okay.
right back.
Okay, thanks, Jillian. So basically, the other piece that I was supposed to find out was if our conservation trust funds covers that expense for art installations, and it does not. So that's going to be another piece that we're going to have to work with as to where we get the funding for this project. So we're going to meet with them again on June 7th and try to get a little more information. I talked to the city sign department, and I'm not sure if the resolution of how the print will come out will be adequate or sufficient for the print quality. So that's something that I have to discuss with Crane as well. So we're still kind of in the process, and that's about all I found out so far. Any questions?
So for the base and the post of the sign
Mhm.
that you were looking at, Danu, it's $122.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and Juan sent the website where we could purchase those materials if we're interested.
Oh, yeah. Maybe if you could send it to me and I can, begin a dialogue with them about different sizes and stuff.
Okay.
Because we did establish a size that we were looking for the artwork, which I can't remember what it is offhand, but that would be great, Jillian. That's great. $122. Yeah. Okay. Any questions about that? All right, then the next old business is the rezoning of Zero Becker's Lane. Right now, we are kind of like on temporary hold because it's going through an administrative process. But we never took a vote, or I never got feedback or an opinion about how you guys feel about that, taking on another property for parks. So I sort of kind of wanted you guys to weigh in on that, of what you thought about that.
Which one, can you tell me which one is the Zero Beckers? It's the one towards Manitou, or is it the one near the trading post?
It's the one by Fields Park, right it's right off of the Creek Walk Trail that goes past the Mustang
Okay.
Field,
Okay,
and it's in the
Got
flood zone.
That's the one where they were talking about expanding the disc golf,
That's correct.
right? Yeah.
Yes.
Um,
And
I went down there after that meeting and yeah, I think it's a beautiful spot and I think it's great if we can put some thought into kind of what would be a good use of it or good how it should be treated. So I'm in support of it.
okay, because we would still have to go through the process of the rezoning. I just wanted to make sure everybody was on board with accepting that parcel of land as parks before we keep moving forward with that rezoning process. So Jillian's got it up on the screen. It looks really good from up there, Jillian. Look at all those trees.
Yeah,
It's great.
yeah, this is a great shot of the property. But it's this section right here, and you can almost see the line here.
Yep.
There's a gate that we removed here, and we do have plans to remove this mesh or chain link fence going along the line of the property.
Do you know when that will be?
We don't have a date set. I do know that we had OSAC. Well, I guess we're figuring out the funding right now. We got a quote for the removal. If we're gonna have to do it in-house, the date will be whenever we can get to it, and staff can dedicate about 4 days to the removal. If we're able to contract it out, we can do it a lot sooner and it will be removed a lot faster. But something that does need to happen before it's removed is Matthew needs to get in here and do some hazard tree pruning. So we'd like to leave the fence up to be a barrier between the trail users and the equipment that we're going to be using.
Mm-hmm.
So midsummer would be my best bet.
Okay, because Cassandra, who's having the race, was requesting hopefully that the fence would be down before her race happened, just because it's, to her, it was a public eyesore. So
We'll see if we can accommodate that request. No
Right.
guarantees on that.
No guarantees, but I thought I better ask because I know she'll ask me. So
Yeah.
Are there any like drawbacks to taking it on as a park other than like additional park maintenance for our park staff and
that's a good question, Chris, because it would have to fall under the maintenance purview of our park staff. Jillian, do you feel like we have the capacity to be able to keep up having maintenance with another park?
Well, I will say, regardless of whether it is parks or open space, we'll be maintaining it. So we're excited about the property. I know Matthew has already planted some trees along the creek bank for what's it called? Bank stabilization. So we're personally very excited about the property. I don't think that we're going to have any issues adding this into our maintenance repertoire, whether it's park or open space.
Okay.
And then one question about the chain link fence. I mean, I'm all in favor for it coming down, but if it is going to be like a sort of a disc golf area, that may mean that discs are flying into the rec path.
Yeah, but that happens now in Fields Park anyway. If you
True.
bike
You're
down
right.
that path or walk, there are discs always flying past you. So I don't.
You're right. Okay,
It's
cool.
gonna change.
And
You know,
all right, I mean, I guess it doesn't, it's not a foregone conclusion that it will be a disc golf area.
that's correct, because I did hear from the city administrator that there already has been pushback to that idea. And maybe Jillian, if you have a conversation with Denise Howell, you could explore that further as to what feedback she's gotten for not being in support of the disc golf.
Well, it always amazes me how quickly news spreads in Manitou Springs.
Oh, yeah.
And how sometimes it can be inaccurately spread. So the disc golf idea was just an idea that
Correct.
we had discussed at a previous meeting. So absolutely nothing is set in stone. It was an idea to turn our disc golf practice course into an official course so that Manitou Springs would have its own full 9-hole disc course or disc golf course. But again, just a suggestion, and that would be something that we would absolutely explore further with PARAB or OSAC, whichever property holder we end up with.
Right, and you know it's gonna have to go through the public process as well, so,
Yeah, definitely.
yeah, yeah. Not, and I know Denise had asked if it was gonna have to be another master plan, but this is such a small area. I think we could probably get enough feedback from the public to, develop, some kind of usage that would be agreeable to everybody. Without having to, pay the extra money for a master plan. I could be wrong, but that's just my thoughts. Okay, so that said, can we please take a vote on supporting the rezoning of this area to parks from open space? So I guess I'm making a motion to rezone 0 Becker's Lane to parks from open space if, I guess that's all.
I'll
Second?
second that. You need a second? Danu?
Yes.
Second,
Yes.
I'll
I got a
second.
second and a third. Okay, great. All right, is anybody opposed to that idea? Okay, then, I guess we had our discussion, then the motion passes. So I guess PARAB is in favor of the rezoning of it from open space to parks then. Okay. Any other questions? If not, I'm gonna move on to our last item of business, which is scheduling our July meeting. Usually, we've always used July for the beginning of our budget meetings. And usually, in the past, we have gotten together in person to discuss these, things that we have maybe, plans for, ideas and things like that. I guess, first of all, do we still want to do that and save this for a budget discussion and any other overflow that we might have? And do we still want to meet in person? Versus Zoom?
I always like to do that summer meeting in person. I like it.
Okay,
I'd be in approval of that.
Chris?
I'll do whatever. I'm happy to meet in person. We just need to come up with a date and time, yeah?
That's correct. Yep. Anthony?
Works for me, yeah.
Candace Crawford?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I do like the idea of getting together in person. My only problem is I'm not going to be back from Europe until July 5th.
Okay. Dave?
I'm good with in person.
Okay. All right, so let's move on to dates then. July 1st is our first meeting. That gives us 3 weeks from our meeting tonight before our next meeting would occur. And then the 4th is on a Thursday. So do we want to meet on July 1st? Or do we want to go ahead and push it out?
Well, if Candace is going to be out of town, Danu, what if we did it on the 8th instead?
We could do it on the 8th. Feedback?
That works for me, obviously.
Okay.
I make a motion to meet on July 8th in person with Danu supplying those tacos because they were amazing.
All right, well, I'll have to have a private conversation with you about that, Colin. Okay, all right, so July 8th in person, and I'll see if I can secure the MAC again, where we usually meet, okay? What time, you guys?
The earlier the better for me, I think.
Colin, Anthony, Dave?
I'm fine.
Candace?
When you, Chris, you mean like 5 o'clock or 6, or what do you want?
Yeah. I think I'm leaving the next morning to go out of town. So I don't want to be meeting late.
I'm flexible, so we could do 5 or whatever, 6, whatever works.
Does 5
Where-
work for everybody? Go ahead.
I prefer,
Are
I mean,
we-
later, and 5:30 probably would be the earliest I'd want to.
5:30.
Okay,
6 o'clock works for Crawford. Sorry, we're coming back from Yellowstone that day.
Okay.
okay. Let's say 5:30 for like a little compromise, because if I do food, that always takes a little bit of time to rustle food, or we could start at 5 and rustle food, and then you folks come in when you can and fill your plate, something like that.
Yeah, or the other date that works for me in July is the 22nd. Or should we should we do a doodle poll, or should we just try to keep it on the 8th?
Well, I guess either the 8th or the 15th, really, because then we push into that August meeting, which is like the first Monday.
Yeah,
So-
I can't do the 15th.
Okay,
I can't do the 15th.
well, let's stick with the 8th then, you guys, okay?
And then
Let's
are we not meeting on the 1st?
That is correct.
Okay.
Does that work for you, Jillian? Okay,
Are
well,
are you having in the same spot that you always do, like upstairs in the Mac building?
yes, I will try to, yes. Natalie, Natalie, I have to talk to Natalie.
Happen. I can
How
make the reservation now.
how
I know.
convenient that you're here.
Done.
Well, all right, cool beans. All right, well, we got that space reserved, okay?
Great.
All right, great. All right, so July 8th at 5 o'clock. If I can't do tacos, is there something else that you guys like?
Wait, Crawford said he wasn't available at 5.
Well, but at 6, we'll save you a plate though.
Okay.
Yeah, there'll be food for you, Crawford. And we'll start
Perfect, because I'm all about the food.
we'll start we'll start out slow for you, okay?
Okay, I'll just
All
eat
right.
more leftover.
Well, there you go. There you go. So, okay. So I'll just kind of blast that out to everybody then. July 8th, 5 o'clock at the Mac. Okay. All right. Anything else? Any other business? No, if not, then I move to adjourn.
Second.
All righty. Anthony seconds. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Danu.
everyone.
Thanks, Jillian.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you all. Thank you.
All righty. Good night.